Hi, I'm Tad with Ireland, and today I'm joined by Matt Smith from our London office. Hey, Matt, thanks for joining me today.
Hey Dad, how we doing?
Doing great. Hey, you were just telling me about a really interesting customer you're working with, an insurance company in Europe, who came to you with a pretty interesting challenge. Can you share a little more?
Yeah, I'd love to. So we were approached by this insurance company, and one of the challenges they had was effectively onboarding new sales reps. And they've explored different avenues around giving access. And some of those methods around issuing laptops or standing up VDI wasn't really cutting it for them. It was slow, it was laborious, it was high cost, and quite frankly, they didn't have the controls they needed when the users were accessing, those critical resources. One of the really interesting points that we were talking about was actually the automated provisioning of access. So how can we do this quickly? How can we revoke access in a world where sometimes these insurance salespeople don't stick around for maybe longer than a month or so? So the solution that we were talking to them about sort of met all those requirements around saving money and efficiencies and security with the Island browser.
And you said that they actually automated it. So once they create an identity, the rest just happens naturally.
Yeah, it was a really smart solution. They wanted to move to a hands-off approach. So by provisioning the identity, the user would log in, um, and essentially it invites the user to download the browser. The only browser that they can download is Ireland, and the only access given in Ireland is to all the entitlements. And that created an environment where these people could get access to what they needed on any device that they wanted. But in the world of insurance, if they decided they want to go and do something else a week or a month later, they would just deprovision the access, and the user would just uninstall the browser off their own device. So it was a really nice balance of access and efficiencies around that deployment.
And in that scenario, once you're deprovisioned, since we're talking about apps that are inside the browser, there's really nothing left behind. Like the browser itself doesn't store any data. So it's really an elegant solution if you think about kind of the security posture as well.
Yeah, exactly right. And when you think about how you get access to those applications, it was all through their identity provider. And we have a very clever mechanism where we can enforce Ireland to be the only browser that can access those resources. So even as that user, they attempt to access those applications from any other browser. We'd be able to enforce that control and that access. So they're safe in the knowledge that despite having access from the device, they would need the Island browser, and revoking the access takes away all those privileges.
This sounds really cool. Tell me a little bit about how did that process go from the time when this company first approached you to kind of getting them up and running with this solution?
Yeah, so I think when Ireland launched, there was a really good sort of press announcement, and these guys picked up on the buzz from when we came out of stealth, and I think from what they read, they immediately identified this as a solution that they could start working with. And within, I'd say, the first couple of days, these guys were up and running really quickly. They built their own homepage. They knew what type of access. The nice thing with Ireland is we're such a intuitive product to get up and running. And by the time we sort of had our first session, it was just amazing how quickly these guys were, already thinking about how to use the product. So it was a very quick engagement, and they could see quite easily how this can really solve those problems for them.
That's very cool. And I think you mentioned this, but when it comes to the employees who are using Island, they're all doing this on BYOD devices where they're buying whatever computer that they want to use, and they're doing that initial install and setup really on their own.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the beauty of the BYO initiative, right? It's your device. The trade-off is you just deploy another browser, which most people are happy to do. There's no ownership from the organization perspective other than their identity. And then in a world where everything is going to SaaS, the identity is king, so we can really control and provision that access. And like you say, at the end of the day, if they no longer want to work for the organization, they just have to uninstall the browser. They're all local admins effectively to their own devices, so they can reset that device back to however they want it to be.
Well, hey Matt, thanks so much for sharing this story. This sounds like a really perfect example of how a company can put the enterprise browser to work. Thanks for sharing it today, and hope to talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Tad. Good to see you.